will learn more about curriculum indigenization.
And for that, we are inviting you to travel with us across cultures around the country. This is Kathleen.
And this is Shella, and you are watching Travel Pinoy. But before we take off, let me just give you a little background about our topic. In education, a curriculum is broadly defined as the totality of students' experiences that occur in the educational process. It is often refers specifically to a planned sequence of instruction. An effective curriculum provides teachers, students, administrators, and community stakeholders with a measurable plan and structure for delivering a quality education. The curriculum identifies the learning outcomes, standards, and core competencies that students must demonstrate before advancing to the next level. Meanwhile, indigenization is the process by which indigenous ways of knowing, being, doing, and relating are incorporated into educational, organizational, cultural, and social structures.
Therefore, curriculum indigenization is the process of enhancing curriculum competencies, education resources, and teaching learning process in relation to the biogeographical, historical, and sociocultural context of the learner's community. It may also involve the enhancement of the curriculum framework, curriculum design, and learning standards of subject areas guided by the standards and principles adhered by the national curriculum. So, are you guys now ready?
Let's go!
The country has around 100 ethno-linguistic groups, the majority of them being in the southern island of Mindanao and falling below the poverty line owing to both their traditional reliance on agriculture and lack of access to education. The groups have kept their cultures and traditions intact by resisting Spanish and American colonization from the 16th century up to the first half of the 20th century. Thus, along with the programs of making education accessible to indigenous communities, the government is prioritizing indigenizing the basic education curriculum to be able to give the indigenous people genuine human development.
In the pursuit of integrating curriculum indigenization, here are some of the governing programs. Education for All aims to ensure all Filipinos are able to achieve a functional literacy. The initiative includes providing educational options for all out-of-school adults and young people. It also commits to the completion of a full cycle of basic schooling to a satisfactory level at every grade. The Department of Education has instituted a National Indigenous Peoples Education Program in pursuit of the National Indigenous Peoples Education Policy Framework based on DepEd Order No. 62 Series of 2011, entitled Adopting the National Indigenous People Education Policy Framework and Republic Act No. 10533, the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. The Indigenous Peoples Education Program is DepEd's response to the right of indigenous people to basic education that is responsive to their context, respects their identities, and promotes the value of their indigenous knowledge, skills, and other aspects of their cultural heritage. The Department of Education has enacted many policies in recent years that are pertinent to the current language in education policy. The DepEd Order No. 74, issued in 2009, institutionalized mother tongue-based multilingual education nationwide and mandated the use of the learner's mother tongue in improving learning outcomes from kindergarten to grade 3. In response to the Education for All campaign to provide for the basic learning needs of all marginalized learners, the Bureau of Alternative Learning System initiated the development of an education curriculum that was designed to meet the learning needs of the indigenous people communities. The
process of indigenizing would depend on the pace of each community. It will not happen in just one snap. Its main target is that each school with indigenous people learners should indigenize its curriculum. Hence, the curriculum should be culture sensitive, contextualized, responsive, and flexible for the communities. So, here are some places that evidently practices curriculum indigenization. First up is Occidental Mindoro Province, south of Manila, wherein a school even set its school calendar to align with the community's farming cycle and not with the regular school season because of the local belief that farming is part of education. They are saying that they don't want their culture to be forgotten and there is no point in having their kids know how to read and write and learn about the Western literature if they do not know the very essence of their own culture. Next up is Ifugao, Philippines, is spearheaded by the Ifugao State University. The indigenous knowledge of the Ifugaos that were taught include 8 areas which were based from the book prepared by the NIKE of 2011. These are land and water management, rice production practices, biodiversity conservation practices, stoneworks, houseworks, laws and justice system, rituals, dances, and festivals. Land and water were looked upon by Ifugaos as great treasures from their creator. Thus, folks tried to sustain them even with the influences of modernization. Like what was mentioned a while ago, MTB-MLE has been widely implemented. As a result, the mother tongue of the learner shall be the primary medium of instruction for teaching and learning for grades 1 to 3. For example, modules written in Ilocos have been used by elementary teachers in the province of Ilocos Norte. Based on the findings of the study by Maria Lopez, she concluded that the mother tongue-based early literacy assessment tools, which include assessments on both reading and writing such as letter identification, word reading, understanding about reading, alphabet, writing, word writing, and writing continuous text or story writing, could determine the early literacy achievement of Ilocano children.
Curriculum indigenization as an appropriate education enables indigenous children and adult learners to exercise and enjoy economic, social, and cultural rights. It also strengthens their ability to exercise their civil rights so they can influence political policy processes for enhanced protection of their human rights.
Incorporating indigenization of curriculum in schools could help indigenous children feel that their identity is secure and respected, facilitating and encouraging a new generation of children to speak languages that were suppressed and attacked during the era of residential schools.
Indigenous knowledge forms part of the global knowledge. In this context, it has a value and relevance in itself. Indigenous knowledge can be preserved, transferred, or adopted and adapted elsewhere. For non-indigenous students and teachers, such an education often has the effect of raising awareness of individual and collective traditions surrounding indigenous communities and peoples, thereby promoting greater respect for and appreciation of various cultural realities. Students of all backgrounds can benefit from being exposed to indigenous education as it can contribute to reducing racism in the classroom and increase the sense of community in a diverse group of students.
It is important to note that indigenization does not mean changing something Western into something indigenous. The goal is not to replace Western knowledge with indigenous knowledge, and the goal is not to merge the two things into one. Rather, indigenization can be understood as weaving or braiding together two distinct knowledge systems so that learners can come to understand and appreciate both. Therefore, we recommend that you use the word indigenization cautiously and take care not to use it when indigenous content is simply added to a course or when something Western is replaced with something indigenous. Rather, it refers to a deliberate coming together of these two ways of knowing.
So before we end this episode, we would like to give you 3 important questions to ponder. Once again, this is Shella,
And this is Kathleen.
and thank you for watching Travel Pinoy. Bye!